Welcome back to our channel, where we explore fascinating topics in law and politics. Today, we have a particularly intriguing subject to discuss: the Bill of Attainder. Now, you might be wondering, what exactly is a Bill of Attainder? Well, let's dive right in and find out. A Bill of Attainder is a legislative act that declares a person or a group of people guilty of a crime without a trial. It essentially serves as a form of punishment imposed by the legislature, bypassing the judicial process. Bills of Attainder have a controversial history, and their use raises significant legal and constitutional questions. The concept of Bills of Attainder dates back centuries and has its roots in English common law. However, in the United States, they are explicitly prohibited by the Constitution. Article 1, Section 9, Clause 3 of the U.S. Constitution states, "No bill of attainder or ex post facto law shall be passed." This means that neither the federal government nor the state governments can pass bills of attainder. One of the fundamental principles of a fair and just legal system is the right to due process. Due process ensures that individuals accused of crimes have the right to a fair trial, where evidence is presented, arguments are heard, and guilt is determined by an impartial judge or jury. Bills of attainder completely bypass this process, denying individuals their right to a fair trial. So the basis for the prohibition arises from the separation of powers concern that the enforcement of a bill of attainder would allow Congress to usurp the power of the judicial branch. When do legislation become bills of attainder? The two main criteria that the courts use to determine whether legislation is a bill of attainder are: 1. Whether specific individuals, groups, or entities are affected by the statute, and 2. Whether the legislation inflicts a punishment on those individuals. The U.S. Supreme Court has identified three types of legislation that would fulfill the punishment prong of the test. 1. Where the burden is such as has traditionally been found to be punitive. This is called a historical test. 2. Where the type and severity of burdens imposed are the functional equivalent of punishment, because they cannot reasonably be said to further non-punitive legislative purposes. This is called a functional test. And 3. Where the legislative record evinces a congressional intent to punish. This is called a motivational test. Another key feature of a bill of attainder is that it applies retroactively. The Supreme Court has held that the bill of attainder clause does not apply to legislation that is intended to prevent future action, rather than to punish past action. The Supreme Court applied the constitutional prohibitions on bills of attainder in a pair of Reconstruction-era cases, Ex parte Garland and Cummings v. Missouri. Garland concerned a federal statute, while Cummings involved a post-Civil War amendment to the Missouri Constitution, but both of the challenged provisions required persons engaged in certain professions to swear an oath that they had never been disloyal to the United States. In both cases, the court held that the effect of the challenged provisions was to punish a group of individuals who had been disloyal to the United States, and the punishment they faced was effective exclusion from the covered professions. In conclusion, bills of attainder are an important topic in constitutional law, as they raise significant concerns about due process, the separation of powers, and the potential for abuse of power. By understanding their history and implications, we can better appreciate the importance of the legal safeguards in place to protect individual rights. That's all for today's video. If you enjoyed this discussion, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe to our channel, and hit the notification bell to be notified of our new videos.